Morning. I'm sure you guys are enjoying. You did your yoga practice under the sun today and did some pranayama
What time I
with
have
your window little open. Okay. All right. Uh, let's do the Vedic peace prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo, Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Bhava Swaha, Tatsavitra Vareneyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Asto Ma Satgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamya. ओम सहना भवतु सहना भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहि तेजस्वी नावधीतमस्तु मा विद्वेषावहि ओम शांति 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 ओम. All right, Vivekachudamani. We are learning about Atma. Even though we cannot talk about Atma, but still we need to learn about it. These are like a pointers towards the truth, which we cannot learn, but we can definitely experience. We can feel. So we are in the middle of it. Verse number 129. Yasye sanidhi matren deha indriye manadhiya visheshu swakiyeshu vartante prerita eva. So 129. Yasya means whose. Sa nidhi matren, by very presence. Deha means body. Indriya means sense organs. Manaha, mind. Dhiya, intellect. Vishyeshu, in functions. Swakiyeshu, respective. So in their respective functions. So Vishyeshu, Sayakiyeshu. Vartante, perform. Prerita, prompted. Eve means like. That by whose very presence the body and the sense organs, the mind and the intellect perform their respective functions. It's almost like a team of servants prompted by their master. Prerit. So the Atma is that factor by whose mere presence, see, sannithi matren, by very presence, it's just present there, and in its guidance or in its presence, everything functions. The gross, the subtle, and the causal bodies function in their respective fields. All our bodies, they function. So we got to understand this Atma, the self, is not doing anything. It is not the doer. By its mere presence, the matter equipment functions. So it's almost like the mother is only there looking, and the children, they behave. Mother doesn't have to do anything, just be there. The same way Atma is there. Mere presence of the Atma, and Atma is not doing anything. So by the mere presence of consciousness, the sense organs, the pran, the mind, the intellect, even the vasanas function in their respective fields without interfering with each other. So consciousness, see, consciousness word is used for the Atma. Consciousness, sometimes it seems like it prompts the equipments, like they function as though prompted by the Atma, but no, it's just a mere presence of the consciousness make all the equipment function. See, just like if we all draw the energy from the sunlight, and we all act according to our own vasanas. Sun does not interfere. Sun is not shining differently on the rose flower than the thorn on the rose bush. It's the same sunlight is going there, same water is, and the nutrients are coming from the plant, the roots. But according to the vasanas, the different thing comes out of it. So nourishment is definitely being drawn, but no interference from the Atma. So body draws its energy from the consciousness, and the individual, according to his vasanas or the consciousness, it lends its energy, never interferes in the activities of the individual. Okay, so this is a basic philosophy which is mentioned in Gita also, in this scripture also, in the Upanishads also. Nothing can happen without the Atma, but Atma never interferes. Nothing can happen without Paramatma, but Paramatma does not interfere. Okay, it's just a mere presence of it. Okay, now let's look at next one, number 130. Ahankaradi. So still he is explaining, kind of throwing the hints so that we can understand what Atma is. So ahankaradi deh antaha vishyaha cha sukha adya Vedyante ghatvad yen nitya bodh swarupinah. Ahankaradi, beginning with the ego. So ego, etc. Deh antaha, up to the gross body. So it starts with the ego. The subtlest is the ego, and the grossest is the gross body. So everything in between also. So beginning from ego up to the gross body, Vishya, sense objects. Cha means and, Sukha adya, pleasures, etc. Vedyante are known. Ghatvat as a jar. So now he's giving us an example so that we can understand this Atma better. Ghatvat as a jar. Yen, that by which Nitya bodh savarupina, of the nature of external knowledge. That because of which, so that means the Atma over here, that because of which everything, the ego, the body, the sense objects, and their pleasures, etc., are known as clearly as a jar, is of the nature of eternal knowledge. So that because of the Atma, we know all of this. And what is the nature of that Atma? Eternal knowledge. Nitya bodh savarupina. So from the subtlest means the innermost concept of I, down to the physical body, its world of objects, and the subtle body and its objects. All of this is known by the knower. And who's the knower? The Atma. You cannot hide from him. Because this gross body and the objects, they constitute the world around us. And the subtle body and its objects. And what are the objects of the subtle body? The subtle body is a mind. What is the basic object of the subtle body? Pleasure and pain, sukh dukh, attachments, revulsions. This is all known to him. How? He says, just like you know a jar, a jug, a pot. If something is sitting in front of me, I know it. So the same way, Atma knows everything, inside, outside, very clearly. Just like another thing you can understand, if I see a jug or a pot, it doesn't have any light of its own. How do I see something? The light from my eyes and the light from the sun. Or at night, light from the bulb. That object does not have any light. The same way, all these objects, inner and outer, they don't have any light of their own. It's a light of the Atma which makes you see all that. That's the reason he gave us this example here. Vedyante ghatvad yen. So all things that are cognized as objects are cognized in the light of consciousness. This consciousness is of the nature of knowledge, and which is the nature of the self. Nitya bodh savrupina, it's its own roop. This is the great truth. He's trying very hard so that we can understand it. What really illumines everything. Even the objects also, the instruments of experiences also, and the experiences themselves also, they're all illumined by that. And at all times. Sun illumines everything over here only when sun is shining. At night, there's no shine of the sun on this part of the earth. But this light of ourself, it's always there. It never dims. It's shining constantly. For the external also, for the internal also. This is the point he's trying to make clear for us. Then continuation of this in the next verse, 131. See, look at it. Ordinarily, people say Atma, Paramatma, and stop there. But these great rishis, how deeply they have gone into this subject matter so that we can understand it. And still, if we don't understand, if we don't make any effort to understand it, who is the loser? We are. Okay? So now 131. Eshaha antaratmaha purushaha puranoho nirantra akhand sukh anubhuti सदा एक रूपः प्रतिबोध मात्रः येन ईशता वागस्वः चरन्ति. Esha, this Antaratma, the innermost self. Purusha, the being. Purano, ancient. Nirantar, constant. Akhand Sukh Anubhuti, of the nature of experience of undivided. Akhand, khand means parts. Akhand means continuous. It's no portions. It's like an indivisible bliss. Otherwise, we feel happy here and not happy there. With this person, we are happy. With that person, we are not happy. Or with the same person in the morning, we are happy. In few hours, we are very unhappy. But this is Akhand Sukh Anubhuti. The nature of experience of undivided. Sada, always. Ek Rupaha, ever the same. Pratibodh Matra, reflecting through different thoughts. Yen Ishita, commanded by which. Ish. Ish is the master, the Lord. And what does the Lord do? Command. Commanded by which? Vag Swaha, the speech, the pran. See, Vag means the speech, Swa means the pran. Charantihi, act. See, when you break down this Sanskrit, understand word by word, the meaning just pops out by itself. That's why very important to know the language. Okay, so this is the reason I'm just giving you word by word meaning so that you can draw your own message out of it. Not my interpretation or not somebody else's interpretation. It should be message which comes from you for you. So this great truth. And what is the great truth? This Atma is the innermost self. The ancient Purush, whose essential nature is the constant experience of infinite bliss. What else we want to know? We are all running after the joy, short-lived joy. We are running after. Here there's an infinite bliss right here. And we have ignored it all our life. Which is ever the same. It never changes. Yet it constantly gets reflected through different mental modifications and commanded by it. The sense organs and the prans perform their functions. So this is all we can say about this great Atma, the Purush. So first he's saying, dwells in the subtle body. And it is an experience of constant, unbroken joy. Why? Because if we look at it, what is the source of sorrow in the body, mind, intellect? It's always the connection with something which is temporary. Then we feel joy. Sometimes joy, sometimes sorrow, sometimes pain. But there's no pain, there's no sorrow, there's no change in the Atma. So there's no sorrow. Constantly, consistently, it stays the same. It doesn't have anything other than bliss. See, lesser, see, why did he use the word mind over here? Because through mind, we feel sorrow. So lesser the mental agitations, more is the joy. When the body is transcended, no pain from the body. When they say you transcend the mind also, no sorrow either. So in terms of the mind, We can only say that this Atma is of the nature of constant bliss. This is the closest somebody can explain it to us about Atma. It is, but you experience it only when you transcend the mind. And you can transcend the mind when there's no agitations in the mind. And innermost means, see, inner means subtle. When he said innermost, that means subtlest. In this, our personality, there's nothing subtler than the Atma. Atma is the subtlest. See, like a body is the grossest. Then comes the mind, senses, then comes the mind, then comes the intellect. And Atma is the subtlest. And it is existence itself. It's always of one nature. Sad ek rupaha. Pure existence only. Always one nature, never changes. See, even in a worldly relationships, if we can count on somebody all the time, we like that relationship. See, like a mother is that kind of a relationship. We can count on our mothers. We all have that experience. Mother can stay hungry and feed the children. Ek roop. All the mothers are like that. If somebody doesn't do it, that's not a mother. But Atma, Paramatma, it's even beyond that. Ek roop. Only bliss, only joy in it, nothing else. Always one nature, never changes. Outer things, they change. Moon looks beautiful, but next day the moon may not be the same moon. There could be clouds in front of it, or there could be a different shape of moon. But Atma is the Sad Ek Rupa. Let's look at 132. Atra ev Sattva Atmanehi Dhi Guhayam Avyakrit Akashe Ushat Prakashaha Akashe Uchai Ravivat Prakashate Swatejasa Vishwam Idam Prakashyan. Atra ev. In this very, and over here what he's talking about, the body. Because we can experience all this only in this body. That's why this body is so, it's like a so important human body. We can experience all this. It's a very precious thing which we have gotten from this nature. So in this very body, Sattva Atmanihi, in the mind full of Sattvikta, purity. Dhi Guhayam. Guh means a cave. In the cave of the intellect. Avyakrit Akashe. In the atmosphere or the space of the unmanifest. Ushat Prakashaha. Captivating splendor. So that means supremely radiant. It really captivates your mind. Akashe, in the sky. Uchai, high. Ravi Vat, like the sun. Prakashate, shines. So shines like the sun high in the sky. Swatejasaha, by its effulgence. It's like a self-effulgence, its own effulgence. Vishwam, universe. Idam means this. So like this universe. Prakashyan, illumining. So in this very body, in a mind full of sattva, in the secret cave of the intellect, in the atmosphere of the unmanifest, the Atma of captivating glory shines like the sun, high in the sky, illumining this universe by its very effulgence. Beautiful, isn't it? So it's like when we meditate, just like we look at sun outside, illumining the whole universe, our universe at least, because they say there are many suns, they must be illumining their worlds. But our sun is doing that. The same thing, this Atma is illumining this world, the world of mine, my body, my senses, my mind, my intellect. How do I captivate it? How do I really get hold of it? How do I really understand it? Bring more and more sattvikta into your personality. That's why sattvikta is needed. So in this very body, in one's own mind, which is full of sattva. Sattva means pure and quiet. Agitated mind is not sattvic mind. Restless mind is not a sattvic mind. Angry mind is not a sattvic mind. Greedy mind is not a sattvic mind. Got to, it's my mind. We spend a lot of time taking care of the outer world. First, take care of this world. You'll be able to understand the outer world much better. Spend more time, morning, evening, in between also. Watch, is my mind calm? Is my mind pure or not? Then take actions to purify it. A mind in which the rajas and tamas impulses, sattvikta has been reduced. So we got to increase the sattvikta. And a cave of the intellect, that really means in the core of your own personality. Because intellect is subtler than the mind. So that's why in that sense it's called the cave. Guh. Because something which is hidden is very subtle and you will have to pay more attention to find it. So in the space of the unmanifest, the self shines forth. So this consciousness, this Atma, this part of Paramatma can be apprehended and must be apprehended. That is our main duty. I'm not saying that other duties are not our duties, but this is the main duty. This is the super duty. Or as kids say, super duper duty. There's nothing beyond that. While doing others, this should be on the top of the list. Because everything is illumined by it. That's why it's conceived as a light. A light without the properties. The sun illumines the entire world of polarity from its high place up in the sky. Similarly, the Atma in the inner space of the heart illumines all the experiences within. When our attention is on the sun outside, no objects can be perceived because you are constantly just thinking about that, concentrated on that light. And if the attention is on the objects, the sunlight is not perceived. Pay attention to this, what I'm saying. When our attention is on the sunlight, no objects can be perceived. And perception is through the mind or the senses. And if this attention is on the objects, the sunlight is not perceived. The same way, if our attention is on the Atma, during meditation, what are we doing? Our attention should be fully on the Atma, the world of the objects. It's not cognized. But if it is on the objects, then reality is not experienced. So, in other words, when you are meditating, sure you are trying to reach there, but when you have reached there, there is you are not aware of it. And that is a good thing. When we see people going into samadhi, that's why they fall down. And we should not be afraid of that. Because this is what we need to experience to really know ourselves in reality. Most of the time, we just keep on going back and forth. We neither know this fully nor know that fully. Whatever you do, do that fully. So when the object is removed, light is not perceived as such. Okay. Then let's look at next one, 133. Gyatah mana ahankriti vikriya nam deh indriye pranakrit kriya nam aya agnivat tan anuvartamanaha na cheshtate na uvikroti kinchan. Gyata, the knower. Mana ahankriti vikriya nam, of the modifications of the mind and the ego. Okay, so vikriya nam means modifications. Mana ahankriti, mind and the ego. Deha indriya prankrit kriya nam, of the activities done by the body, sense organs and pran. Deha indriye pran krit kriya nam. Aya agni vat, like the fire in a ball of iron. Tan means them. Anuvartmanaha, that is Anuvartmana means following. That really means taking their forms, like a following and just assuming the form. Na cheshtate, does not act. Na vikrotihi, does not change. See, vikar means a change. Na vikroti means does not change. Kinchan, in the least. The knower of the modifications of the mind and the ego. The knower of the modifications of the mind and the ego. And who's the knower? Atma. Okay. So the knower of the modifications of the mind and the ego and the activities of the body, the sense organs and the prans, which apparently take their forms like the fire in a ball of iron, is the self. So the knower is the self, which neither acts nor changes in the least. Atma is the knower of the experiences within. Atma knows it. All joys, all sorrows, which are conditions of the mind and the intellect. But it's a knowing principle. Because in the absence of that, nothing can be known. The ego in the individual is the experiencer and the doer entity. See, there's a difference between a knower and the doer, knower and the experiencer. So who is the doer and the experiencer? That's the ego. This ahankar is the experiencer of all that happens within. And Atma knows it. It's just sitting there. Ahankar, having the sense of doership and enjoyership, is also called a Jivatma. So there is a Atma and a Jivatma. Individualized soul is called a Jivatma. But who is giving the energy and the light and the power is the Atma. But it's not the doer or enjoyer of anything. And what is it? Agni, Ayo Agni, what? So it's almost like if not a ball, just imagine 10 pieces of iron of different shapes are put into the fire. It's a lot of intense heat, and you put those pieces, iron pieces in there, and you remove them when they are red hot. What do you see? You will see the fire in the shape of that iron. There could be a rectangular fire, there could be a circular fire, elliptical fire, etc. But we know that fire doesn't have a shape. Fire has assumed the shape of that particular shape of the iron piece. Similarly, the light of consciousness, which we are, Atma, appears to function according to the modification of the equipment. And modification of the equipment is body, the mind, the intellect. It takes the shape of that. But in reality, there's no shape to that. Its shape depends upon the object it illumines. Because mind is being illumined by the Atma. Body is illumined by the Atma. At any given time, that's what's happening. When consciousness illumines the experiences of the mind, it seems like that it has assumed the attitude of the enjoyer. We think that Atma is enjoying, or Atma is in pain. When it illumines the activities of the world outside, it appears to be the attitude of the doer. Okay? So just remember that. Atma by itself, because he's trying to explain what this Atma is to us. So it's like a string of thoughts in these verses which really make it clear for us. In essence, we are the Atma, but we have forgotten it. Or we have just a vague idea about it. We have not experienced it. And as a human being, this is our topmost duty to experience this. I'm going to do one more and then we'll stop. 134. So that will give you some time to ask some questions, and also a bhajan by, if Dr. Chandra is there, he's going to sing the bhajan for us today. Na jayate, na umriyate, na vardhate, na kshiyate, na vikrotihi, nityaha viliyamane, api vapushi, mushimam, na liyate kumbhe iv. Ambram Swayam. Na Jayate is not born. This verse reminds me of verses in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. Na Jayate is not born. Na Umriyate does not die. Na Vardhate does not grow. Na Kshiyate does not decay. Na Vikroti does not undergo change. Nitya, eternal. Viliyamane, even when destroyed. Api means even. Vapushihi, body. Amushimam, this. Na liyate is not dissolved. Kumbhe, in the jar. Iv means like. Ambram, swayam, space, independent. Ambar means space. Neither it is born, nor does it die. In the earlier class this morning, the little kids, they were asking this question. Because they think about it. Okay? It's our duty to tell them. In fact, my own grandson last night, 5-year-old, he was asking me, do we really die? I said, no, we don't die. We don't die. So kids can understand. But we got to explain it to them in their language. So neither it is born, nor does it die. Neither does it grow, nor does it decay. There can never be any change in Atma. Change is only in the coverings. Being eternal, because it's eternal, that's why there's no change in it, there's no decay in it. It was never born, it will never die. It does not undergo any change. Even when this body is destroyed, body dies, body changes. We see continuously, we have seen the body changing. Ours also, others also. Mind changes many times a minute. Intellect changes, ego changes. Atma never changes. It does not cease to exist. I mean, how many different ways this great Rishi is telling us the truth. It is like the space in the jar that is broken. It is independent of the jar. We think there is an inner space and there's an outer space. But if you break the jar or the jug or the pot, the inner space and outer space, could you tell how did it merge? It was the same all the time. And on us also, these are the jars. Physical body, which is a gross, then a subtle body, then there's a causal body. These are just the jars around us. The inside, who we are, is eternal, shapeless, formless, colorless. It was, it will be. It cannot become bigger, it cannot become purer, because it is purest. So the great Atma is neither born nor does it die. Always remember that. The bubble is born and the bubble dies. Air in the bubble is neither born nor does it die when the bubble bursts. Always keep that in mind. It is meaningless to complain that my consciousness was dull yesterday and then today it is bright. Because consciousness never increases nor decreases. It is only the rise and the fall of the ignorance that causes the apparent veiling. Ignorance creates that veiling over us. Sun is shining and I just draw the curtain and I say, no, it's dark. Whose fault is it? That veiling we have created, the ignorance. So we got to remember that when the mind is full of attachment, hate, anger, greed, delusion, this awareness becomes dull. That means we really don't know the reality. We have made that sheet of veiling thicker. And when these weaknesses are less, more light of consciousnesses we can perceive, we can feel. But consciousness is same all the time. It's only the thickness or the thinness of the ignorance. So Atma, the self, never gets modified. The feeling of I in childhood, youth, and old age remains the same. That I never changes. So the first two lines of this verse contain the definition of the term eternal. Nitya, never born, never dies, nor grows, nor reduces, nor even is modified, is infinite, eternal. Just remember that. If you want to know what eternal is, this is what eternal is. This is the definition. And conversely, that which is finite, anitya, that which is born, which grows, decays, undergoes different modifications. That is like an opposite of that. So this Atma is eternal. Okay, so beautiful examples he is giving so that we can understand it, that when the part is broken, the part space is not broken. When the walls are pulled down, the room space becomes the space around. There's no difference in it. So the same way, when the body is destroyed, the Atma is not destroyed. Okay, so everywhere, at all times, ever present, this should give us a consolation, a relief. But it got to become our experience, not just somebody else's experience. And in order to experience this, we'll see that he's going to tell us what to do also, the sadhana which we need to do. Okay, so let's stop it here. So Jyoti, questions first or bhajan first?
Neetu Lalman.
Neetu, okay, all right. So let's just have a few questions and then Dr. Chandra's bhajan and then more questions after that if you want. Yes, Neetu.
Harshji,
Yes.
namaste. I have a question about the perception.
Mm-hmm.
We all perceive things differently.
Yes.
So can you clarify a little bit about the
Yeah.
perception and
Yeah. Yeah.
the
We perceive.
perception?
Yeah. We perceive differently because of the layer of the ignorance is different on our
Okay.
intellect. That's why.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay.
that's why when the ignorance is removed, we'll perceive same.
Oh, I see. Okay, that was good. That's what I wanted to understand.
Yeah, this is the sadhana that we got to make our mind clear and calm.
Okay.
Okay, so that's why we perceive differently.
So the
Okay.
perceptions get clearer as our mind gets purified more and
Yes,
more.
exactly. When mind becomes, it's like a purity of the mind and the calmness of the mind.
Uh-huh.
These are the two things we need to do. It's almost like if there is a lake,
Uh-huh.
if the water in the lake is muddy, I won't be able
Mhm.
to see deep down.
Okay.
And if the lake is very turbulent, still I cannot see down.
Okay.
The lake water has to be clear also, calm also, to
Yes.
be able to see at the bottom. The same thing for the mind also.
So perceptions will get better if our mind is clear, which is the veil, and
Yes.
if the veil is removed, then the Atman will come through and see
Yes.
Atma in
Yes.
everyone. Is that what it
Yes.
means?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
you got it. Yes,
Okay.
Jyoti.
Sujata.
Yes, Sujata.
Namaste, Harshji.
Namaste.
I guess I just want to know if I'm understanding this right. It seems like the ego is kind of the plug that you have. You're kind of a plug, And where you plug into this whole phenomenon determines the experience of the ego. The Atma is a phenomena.
Atma, I wouldn't say Atma is the phenomena. Atma is the reality. Atma is the truth.
But the reality seems to be a phenomena because we seem to be a side effect of that phenomenon. And we think that we are separate. And we plug in, like we may plug into a part that's painful, or we may plug into a part that's because we identify. The identifying ego plugs in and says, this is my
To me, I
experience.
think, we just misidentify ourselves.
Right.
Okay? Yeah, misidentification.
Instead of plugging into the source, we're plugging into some secondary side effect that's happening.
Yeah, if that clarifies for you, that's fine. Yes. Okay. But remember, I mean, don't make it too complicated with different terms, different words. Try to go experience it with a simpler way. All I want to know is I want to experience who I am. I am the reality. I'm the truth. And everything else is extra. Okay. I want to just detach from the extra.
So is this where free will comes in?
Free will, yes, it's a free will. Yes, we can do it.
You have a choice as to what you want to experience in this reality.
Ultimately, you'll experience the same.
Everyone
Experience the real experience. The reality is no different.
No,
it's almost like a sun is up there. Do I really want to see the sun through the window, through my sunglasses? What color of sunglasses? I'm not changing the reality. Reality is the same. Okay. So over here with all these, we want to know, we want to experience who we are.
So you want to improve this little tool that you have inside you. You want to refine it so that you can experience.
But tool is the mind.
Yes.
Mind is a tool. Okay. We are not the tool. We are the soul. We are the Atma. Yeah. Mind is the tool. We want to refine the tool. So through which we are perceiving.
Yes.
We got to
polish our glasses.
Yeah, exactly.
And eventually you want to break the glasses and you are.
It will break. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We will transcend. Doesn't matter whether it breaks or not. Right? It can be here.
Yes. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter then. When you're not attached to it, then it does not matter.
Yes.
Right? Whether I leave 1 million or 10 million or nothing in my bank account, if I'm not attached, nothing matters. But if I'm attached, even $10, it will bring me back. Okay? Yes, Jyoti.
One more question, Hershji, just one word.
Okay.
Vapushya mush.
Which
134.
134.
Vapushya mushmi.
Vapushi means body.
Okay.
Vapushi amushmim.
What does that mean?
Amushmim means this. So this body.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, Jyoti.
I had a question. Pooja had a question.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Pooja.
Hi, Auntie. Thank you for
Namaste, Vicky. How are you?
Okay, so this is my question. You said Atma is the soul, and I just want to mirror back what I think I am understanding. The way I understand is Atma is like water, and we all have water inside of us. We all have the soul. The water is like one drop inside of us, but together we make up the ocean. So everybody is the collective Atma. We are one piece inside of us. That's one question I have. Mm-hmm. That's how I understood it. So then when you really connect with your Atma, then you're able to see the light in everybody else and recognize that we're all one. Like we would only be kind. If we are kind to ourselves and someone else's Atma, then we will be kind to them. Okay, so there's like a unity consciousness that I understand, that yes. I think I'm understanding. Mm-hmm. in our lifetime, our purpose of our lifetime here is to go, our highest purpose is to go on our spiritual journey and connect with this source and spirit that we call Atma. A lot of people in life, it takes different amounts of time to do that. And some people never can do it. So like everyone on this call, I feel is like at least aware enough to understand this is part of what we're here to do. So my question is, like, from if it takes you a certain period of time in your life, say you only awaken to that, your spiritual awakening at 60, and then you go into your next lifetime. My question is, are you starting all over, or are you kind of like in your next life starting from where you left off in the previous life, or do you have to do all that homework again? And two, is the soul the same, or is it a new soul or a new Atma when you go into the next lifetime that you have to get re-familiar with?
Okay, all right. First of all, there's no new Atma.
Okay, so
It's
Atma
the
is like,
same Atma, which is
okay,
encased in the subtle body. Subtle body means the mind, intellect, the deeper part of mind, which is called Chit, and the ego.
okay,
So it's like a same space or same water, if you want to call it, in that balloon of the subtle body traveling.
yeah.
And
Okay.
the whole process is to break that balloon. If you break the balloon, it has merged. That is called a mukti. But if
Okay.
it has not broken in this lifetime, that bubble will take birth based upon what you did now and start from where you left off.
Okay, great. So
So
everything
it's
that we,
almost like if a child is in 5th grade in a certain school, certain state, or certain city, and parents happen to move. The child doesn't have to start from kindergarten or preschool again in the next city. They can transfer the first 5 years of schooling and start with the 6th grade. This is what happens. That's why you see certain people very young, they are inclined towards this path. There
yeah,
are some people, they say, no, it's not our time yet. They think that we got to just do this when we get old.
right.
Okay,
Um,
so we are, Lord Krishna says this very emphatically in Bhagavad Gita, that I help you. I really means this whole creation is created with a beautiful architect. The design is perfect. So he says, according to that law, you will go to the place where you can progress further.
okay, I have one little quick follow-up question around that though, if we have time. Do we have time, do you think, for a little follow-up
It's okay, we
question?
have all the time.
So then I feel my second question is, then when you become awakened to that, like it feels really good to be around other people that are awakened to that too. Like I love hanging out with Minka because I feel like she's in alignment with that. But then it does feel sometimes when I spend time with people that are not awakened to that, I feel like there's three people. I don't want to like put into boxes, but it's like people that are aligned with that. So then you're kind of traveling on your soul journey with them. There are people that are kind of just completely disconnected. They don't have any awareness of it. And then there are people that are like, they're not connected to their Atma. And then there are people that I think are like toxic, that take you away from Atma. So I think I understand, for me, like I made a decision. The people that are going to take me away from source, I don't need to have in my experience.
That's right. It's your
okay.
duty to keep yourself non-toxic.
Great. Then I feel like the people that draw me closer to source, like I want to be around those people. They're going to take me higher. The people in the middle, I'm kind of confused about, because I feel like sometimes I hang out with those people and I'm like, I almost feel like I don't know if I have anything in common with them. They're just in the middle, like they're not really awakened to it, but they're not harming me in any way. Like all of us here, we like, I know it's like COVID now, but right, we go to parties, we have like small talk. We're not really in our higher selves in that time, but maybe that's okay. Nothing toxic is happening. That's my question. Like those people in the middle, like is it okay to just keep engaging with them, or are we supposed to really align ourselves with as many people that are going to be like our spiritual army that takes us to our highest
Okay, see, this is, Pooja, this is where we have the free will. If this intensity to grow is very strong in us, then definitely I would say no to the toxic people, which you already said. And I
Okay.
would minimize the time even with the in-between people.
Okay, that's
Because
what I
there's
thought.
always a chance they can drag you down, because all our vasanas, old impressions, they haven't been roasted yet. It's a very easily to slip down. So we got to be alert.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thank
be
you.
little watchful of that. And your own practice, personal practice, it has to be firmly established. Then when you are firmly established, then you can be even in the company of the toxic people. It will not affect you.
Yeah.
It's like right now, if you are fully immune, you won't get COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the same kind of a thing. We got to just make sure that we are firmly established in our practice, and we should not fool ourselves either. We got to be watchful of our mind. Where do we really stand? These are our equipments. Is my mind completely clean, or am I judging others? So these are like a small ways we can look at it, but I can see that your questions are excellent, Pooja. Okay, we can have in future, we can have more discussions around this also.
Yeah.
But I'm
Okay.
glad,
Thank you.
you and Menaka, you don't mind sitting through 1 hour plus with old people like us. So that means you guys have done some homework in the last lives. So that's why you're interested to this. Proud of you. Keep it up.
And to extend on what Pooja is saying, Harji, if you are with the in-between people, and if you are pretty awakened, maybe we can pull them up
Yes.
rather than worry about they pulling us down. If you have confidence in what your mission is, try to
Yeah.
pull them up. And if they
Yeah,
don't,
that's why I
then
said
leave
your
them
own
alone.
practice got to be firmly established to be able to. It's like a seasoned swimmer can save somebody else drowning. But if a person is not, it's like a mediocre swimmer, can save himself or herself, but cannot save somebody else. So we got to become a seasoned practitioner. Okay. And that is only we can do it for ourselves. Nobody.
And that's what's written in chapter 18, those few last verses. Only help those who are ready to be helped.
Yes, that's
and
right.
stay away from the others.
Yeah, good. Excellent. Thank you, Urmil. Okay, Jyoti.
Pooja, thank you for turning your video on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I know Jyoti said that we like to see your faces, but any day, if you, some people don't feel like turning on the video, that's fine too. Don't think that you cannot ask questions, because I understand at home we are sitting, sometimes we are not in the position where we can show our faces. That's okay. You can still ask questions. Okay.
Yeah, you can ask questions. I was just saying.
Yeah, no, I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable, because to me, I think these classes are to encourage people. It's good to see faces. I just love your faces and your questions also. Good to ask questions also, but don't feel bad if you don't want to turn the.
Does Vidhi have a question, Vidhi?
Yes.
Yes, Vidhi.
It's a question or I just want clarification. आपने beginning में बोला body draws energy from consciousness.
Yes.
It never interferes in the activities of the individual.
Yeah, because it doesn't interfere. So then because if Atma interferes, then all our actions should be pure.
So why do we pray? Why do we ask for things? Or why do we tell children also, God knows better, ask God, ask God? I mean, that kind of training we got from childhood and we are giving children. But if
yeah, that's why we got to retrain ourselves.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. Because yesterday somebody was saying that, yeah, the fear of God. Yeah, retrain yourself.
Yeah.
God is not God. Again and again in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, don't fear.
Yeah.
Throughout, Lord Krishna said, do not fear. If you are afraid, you are not a devotee.
So all the activities on the planet are happening as per karmic.
This is all karmas, our karma, group karmas.
And the consciousness is just giving us the energy to
It's
bring
only sitting there watching.
so
Yes,
so
it
there's
doesn't
no
interfere. It does not, just like a sunlight, does a sunlight interfere? Sunlight will let somebody rob also. Sunlight will let a saint do saintly work also.
absolutely. So
Okay?
there's nothing asking. That's my question.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no
Sakshi,
need.
that's right. That's right. You got it. Okay, thank you. Yes, Jyoti.
That's
I
it.
have one
Ready
question.
for Dr. Chandra?
Yes, Dr. Chandra.
I have one question, Hershiji. Very nice
Yes.
discussion today. Pooja asked some very good questions. I really
Yes,
like.
she did. She did.
My question is, in the beginning of the creation, say like God created a man and a woman, then the progeny came. How many souls? Is there a fixed amount of souls that is going to be circulated and again until all the souls go back to him? I say like a man and a woman in the beginning created 4 or 5 kids, and all those 4 or 5 souls, it automatically comes from God to those all those beings. How do you? What is your?
Yeah, you know, Dr. Chandra, answers to all this is given in Bhagavad Puran.
Yes,
Bhagavad Puran, you know, there are 18 Puranas. Bhagavad
Yes.
Puran talks in detail about this, how from the mind of the Brahma, creation started.
Yes.
They could create, they didn't even need the man and a woman to do the creation.
I see. Okay.
Through the mind, they created all this. Then later on, sure, there was they said that it's not really propagating. Then a man and a woman, and then several of them. But that doesn't mean that those were the only Atmas. Atmas are countless. Even at that time, they were countless.
I see. Okay, that's my
Okay.
question.
So Atmas are, one time I asked my Guruji about the Atmas. He said, look at the sun. Can you really count the sun rays? You can't. It's countless all the time, everywhere Atmas. There's no place where Atma is not.
Yes.
So that's how it works. It's really hard to comprehend, but only thing we got to remember that Atma is eternal. It assumes or takes the body from the Prakriti based upon our own desires.
Right.
Based upon the desires, we take the Prakriti. Whether it's a pig's body or that's a human body or a divine body. This is all based upon our own desires.
Yes.
Okay.
So in other words, what in creation, so God made it's a good and evil always fighting. That's that's how the principle.
Yeah,
Like,
good and evil fight because there's a constantly in the manifested world, we have a tamsikta, rajsikta, satvikta. It's a play between these 3 gunas.
Yes.
So that's why we see the fight between the devtas and the daitya.
Yes.
Rakshas
Yes, I
and
agree.
the devatas. They say good and the bad constantly fighting inside us also.
So in other words, God created purposely the
experience.
the
See,
bad
good
guy.
and the bad is like a duality. Without a duality, you cannot experience.
So that's the reason. Okay.
Right? If it's an Atma alone, nobody. See, when it becomes 2, then there's experience.
Yes.
When there's a 1, there's no experience.
Yes.
If you are in a room which is completely white, there is no fluctuation in the mind.
Yes.
Then you see a little dot over there on the white.
Yeah.
Duality. You start thinking. So this duality or polarity was created for experience. And this is called God's Maya or Leela, a play. For play, you got to have players.
Yes.
Yeah? So, but we always have the option. Do we want to keep on playing? Or do we want to end the play and go back home?
Yeah, I agree.
That option is always there, but somehow once we get trapped into this, we just don't want to go back home. It's almost like that long time ago, there was a scientist who did this little experiment. He took a cage, In the cage, he put a mouse and 2 buttons. When the mouse will press one button, he will get a shock. When he presses the other button, food will come out. And the cage was closed. He'll get a shock, he'll get a food, shock, constantly going between these two. After a while, that scientist opened the cage door. What happened? Mouse was so intrigued with this pain and the pleasure, he didn't want to get out.
Okay.
That's exactly what has happened to us.
Okay. Got it.
We have some painful moments in this life, some pleasurable moment in life. And we always have the option, just like that mouse, always have the option to get out. But we don't want to get out. Right? That is the predicament which we are all in. Right now, if God comes and says, I am here to take you
How many will go?
to the ultimate Brahmlok, how many of us will right away, without looking at our phones, will leave?
I agree. So
Or saying bye to our loved ones?
yeah.
Hardly anybody, actually. Because this has happened according to our scriptures in the past, it has happened.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
Okay, so Dr. Chandra, your questions are excellent too, just like everybody else. I really enjoy being with you every day. So please, now, if you don't mind, sing the bhajan we are waiting for.
Let me tell you a brief history of this bhajan. It's a 17th century gentleman. It's a true story. A Nizam of Golconda. I don't know, some of you may know or may not, but in 17th century at that time, there was a tax collector for this Nizam of Golconda. It's in close to Hyderabad. And he is a Rama Bhakta. So he always collected the taxes, but without giving to the treasury of the king, started building a Ram temple in Bhadrachalam. So finally, they found out that he has been stealing money to build Ram temple. The king put him in the prison, in Golconda prison. Even I believe we can visit even today. The Golconda is a big fort. So that's where he was kept and punished for 14 years.
Wow.
The legend says in the previous life, for 14 years, he kept a parrot as a pet, encaged. And then that is the bad karma he did. So he has to suffer in prison for 14 years in this Janma. So that's the little brief story about this Ramadas. His name is Ramadas. So he's a great Bhakta of Ram.
Okay.
And in the prison, he did this song. So I'm going to try to sing this. Forgive me, this is a Telugu song, it's not a Hindi song. I'll try to do my best, huh? Okay. Ye tirugananu dayachu